Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. And I'm going to begin this week's episode by sharing one of my biggest failures as a coach. And this was about 15 years before I'm recording this. And I had a client, and they were very successful in the medical field, but they wanted to be a novelist. And they told me that they'd tried and failed to make that transition on numerous occasions, and that they'd even hired other coaches to help them make that transition. But he felt I was the one person on the planet who could help him. And I'm not immune to flattery, and I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. But unfortunately, that initial conversation was as good as it got, because from the beginning, despite the fact that, he said he was very familiar with my work, he would get angry if I even suggested that there might be a spiritual component to life, that the idea of there being a universal intelligent energy at work in the world was just nuts and wrong, and how I don't want to talk about it. And what that meant, since that's kind of most of what I talk about, was that a lot of our sessions became like these just hour-long arguments. And it got so bad that at one point they said to me, okay, I've applied for assisted suicide, and you have 6 weeks to sort me out, or that's the path I'm taking. And I, at that point, did bow out somewhat gracefully and said, I think we've gone outside the scope of business coaching at this point. I still felt like I'd let him down until less than a year later, I came across an interview with him about the publication of his first novel. And the interview asked him, well, how did you come to become an author? And what he said fascinated me. He said he finally came to realize that he was all alone in the universe, no one could help him, and he just need to find his own way. And it dawned on me, it was just obvious to me that he had needed the great Michael Neill, I'm using quotes, to fail before he was willing to just take up his own cause and live the life he really wanted to live. It was sort of like, well, if even Michael Neill can't help me, then I'm going to have to do it my way. Now, the funny thing is, I've seen that same pattern in me, in my clients, in human beings in general ever since. It's almost like we need to exhaust all other possibilities and give up on anyone truly loving or caring for or helping us the way we want to be loved, cared for, and helped, before we just kind of say, fuck it, I'm just going to have to figure this out for myself and do it my way. In other words, it's like taking responsibility for our own experience of life, owning our life, is kind of plan B for most of us. And sometimes it's not even plan B, it's like plan C through Z, if we even get to it. Now, here's the thing. One of my favorite quotes in the world comes from George Bernard Shaw, the playwright and activist. And he said, "This is the true joy in life. Being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one. Being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy." Now, you'd think, given that's my favorite quote, that I would live that way, but I still find myself complaining on a regular basis about the world's failure to devote itself to making me happy. And the way it looks is something like this. I try really hard to make everyone around me happy. So I put in the hours, I do all the right things, that's my plan A. But in the end, people still find a way to get mad at me, and life never works out as well as it should, and I get resentful and I feel hard done by, until eventually I get so fed up that I just go, fuck this, I'm just going to do what I actually want to do, and the world can suck it, which is plan B. Now, here's the funny thing. Almost immediately, I begin to feel better. I start to listen to myself. I start to take care of myself. I sometimes even love myself. I start doing things in a way that makes sense to me. And then I do them in that way instead of trying to get them right or do them the right way. And life starts to look friendly to me again, and I start to enjoy it again. And then, once I feel better, I start to feel a little guilty about, like, blaming other people for my misery. And then I begin to give responsibility for my happiness, success, and well-being back to other people, which never really works because I don't know if you've noticed, other people are oddly more interested in their lives than in yours. So it's almost like, for me, what I noticed was, plan A, do it right, and then I'd get fed up, go to plan B, and then when things started to work better, I'd go back to plan A. But there's a happy ending to this. Over the past year or so, I've really seen that in real time. And so what happened is, when I got to the bit where I go, fuck this, and stop trying to get it right and start to feel better, I now kind of have a new thought. And it's like, what if, wait for this, what if I made doing my life my way, which includes navigating the real responses of other people and the imaginary responses of other people, what if I made doing my life my way into plan A, instead of waiting until I'm pissed off at the world and fed up with life in order to implement it? And when I first heard it, what it reminded me of is I had a business mentor about 30 years ago who said to me, if the bottom line is so important, why is it always at the bottom? And it's kind of the same thing. It's like, if plan B works so well, why don't I make it plan A? And I can tell you that since I've started to make my life my way into plan A, things have worked much, much better. And oddly, I don't seem to be doing any less for the people around me. So that's your experiment, if you would like an experiment. Over the next few days, over the next week, if you want to, for the next few months, maybe the rest of your life, just go beyond whatever you think you're supposed to do. And just check in. Like, what makes sense to you to do about it? What do you actually want to do in your work, in your relationship? What do you know to do? What's kind of obvious to you to do about the things that have seemed problematic that you've been trying to figure out or get right? Like, if it really was just up to you, how would you do it? And what I've seen in my sort of year or so of playing with this is it doesn't matter so much whether or not you actually follow through on what you come up with. It's just taking the time to ask the questions and listen for the answers seems to do most of the heavy lifting. And you can always tell that you're living your life your way because it feels good to you. And that's just how we're made. Now, if you'd like to learn more about this, I will be leading a mastermind called Your Life Your Way, and you can find out more about it at michaelneill.org. But for now, I just encourage you to play with it and just really take that extra minute to tune in and go, well, okay, if it was up to me, how would I do it? If I got to decide, what would my decision be? And see what happens. Have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk with you soon.